学，英文名是 Steven Oliver。
大家好，我们是来自深圳贝塞斯国际学校，这是郭瑾，然后我是郭瑶。
Hi, this is Anthea and Jessica, and we're sisters. And I come from Basis Park Lane Harbor, and she comes from Qingdao University, like
Sun Yat-sen University Middle School.
yeah.
Okay, so let's start now. My partner and I stand calling on a resolution. Resolve public health services should expand access to gene editing technologies. The framework for this round lies in the fact that if the cost of integrating gene editing technology into public health services outweighs the benefits, you should vote negative. Contention 1. The experimental nature of gene editing technology means its safety cannot be ensured. Technological limitations exist for various applications of CRISPR, which means it's not mature enough to be integrated into public health services. The issue here is mostly circled around its unpredictability and off-target effects. According to a study in the UK conducted by Alan Bradley of the Center Institute in July this year, the technique can cause big deletions or re-enrichments of DNA, meaning that some therapies based on CRISPR may not be quite as safe as we thought initially, and inappropriate use of such technology may lead to mutations of human genes. That is to say, genetic engineering doesn't have any future proof. When modified genes are succeeded by future generations, the risks of mutations increase significantly. It could also lead to unforeseeable unwanted effects of human growth. Adding to that, although genome editing is much interested in areas like human disease prevention and treatment, most research done regarding this is still using animal models, meaning that its viability of use in people is yet to be determined. There's currently not enough safety regulations for it to be incorporated into public health services as well, although this can be solved by legislation in the future. Normally, genetic engineering regarding its significance should be placed somewhere higher than other assist reproduction technologies. But currently, the situation is that most underdeveloped countries don't have strict regulations on issues such as this. And even if they actually do, they lack strict supervisions on such shaded areas. Our contention 2 is basically about ethical concerns would arise when gene editing technology is being widely used. Some altered genes, especially those applied to egg and sperm cells or in the embryo, can indeed be passed on to the next generation as it modifies the germline. So there are 4 concerns that could arise due to this. The first one is that permissible to enhance human traits, which includes increased strength and higher intelligence quotient through gene editing? And if so, should prospective parents be free to choose the genetic characteristics of their kids? And how do we address the discrimination that's going to be involved? Our second concern is that can it be understood as human creating humans? So it's basically overriding divine abilities. Concern 3 is that is it acceptable to genetically modify all future generations without their consent? And our last concern is that there's a possibility that gene editing goes so far that several generations later we are no longer regarded human. So in that case, how do we identify ourselves? So in this case, we're being supposedly unnatural, and it separates us from our existing identity, which is a human being. Contention 3 is about social divide and monetary issues. Gene editing technology will increase the social divide, which means that it will increase the wealth gap. The cost of this treatment ranges from $500,000 to $1.5 million, while an average American annual salary is around $50,000. So that's 10 years of their salary. Not only that, some of the benefits the patients get from gene editing can be passed on through generations. So after generations, the result is highly likely going to be that the poor receives far less chances because they can't afford it in the first place. And just incorporating into the public sector doesn't really solve the issue due to the fact that the striking difference between the two the salaries and the money that's going to be invested into this research. And that's my case. Thank you.
My time starts now. My partner and I stand in strong affirmation to the resolution. Resolve public health services should expand access to gene editing technologies. In order to clarify this debate, we offer the following definitions and observations. Definitions. Genome editing is a group of technologies that give scientists the ability to change an organism's DNA. These technologies allow genetic material to be added, removed, or altered at particular locations in the genome, according to the U.S. National Library of Medicine 2018. Observations. Evaluate this round through policy net benefits. If the benefits outweigh the harms, vote per. If the harms outweigh the benefits, vote con. This is the best framework because it is the most predictable, accessible, and impartial. Contention 1. Fighting disease. Gene editing technologies can solve genetic disease. Hereditary diseases are killing millions now. According to the National Institute of Health Office of Rare Disease Research, 80% of rare diseases are genetic, and 350 million people worldwide suffer from rare diseases. However, gene editing technologies can solve these diseases. According to U.S. National Library of Medicine in 2018, gene editing technology is of great interest in the prevention and treatment of human diseases. It can be explored in research on cystic fibrosis, hemophilia, and sickle cell disease. It also holds promise for the treatment and prevention of more complex diseases such as cancer, heart disease, mental illness, and human immunodeficiency virus infection. Gene editing technologies can solve vector-borne diseases. Vector-borne diseases are killing many now. According to the World Health Organization 2018, there are around 1 million malaria-caused deaths per year. Malaria is the most widespread of the vector-borne diseases, but also includes dengue fever and Lyme disease and countless others. Genetic editing technologies can solve these diseases. According to Dr. Varsich and MacDonald in 2015, they genetically edited a mosquito so that it could not carry the parasite that causes malaria. By letting public health services access these technologies, we are making sure that all people can receive these services, even the people who can't afford to buy a mosquito net. Public health services make these medicines affordable and sometimes free for those who are in extreme poverty, especially with the inexpensive of CRISPR. This has already happened during the establishment of cancer treatment in public health systems. Combating privatization. Contention 1. Contention 2. Genetic editing technology companies are fragmented now, but huge pharmaceutical companies are merging with smaller companies. According to Dr. Glatter, companies utilizing CRISPR technology are being founded, financed, and growing at astonishing rates. Expanding public access will combat private firms bottlenecking this technology. According to Liz Harley, a writer from Frontline Genomics, a small number of biotech firms could hold sole control for the future of CRISPR innovation. This model could rapidly bottleneck the use of CRISPR technology to discover and develop useful therapeutics. This means that private companies will hinder research because they lack the necessary capability, and only the key patent holders are dominating the market, so it lessens the incentive private research to invent new medicines. According to Liz Harley, rare diseases are likely to be the hardest hit by the companies aimed at gaining profit, which means that there is little development to research for rare diseases and only the government will care. Public health services increase in quality, innovation, and save the millions of lives that are suffering from currently incurable diseases. Thank you.
So you mentioned that you are going to modify the genes on mosquitoes to treat the malaria that's going to be involved. So according to the definition, public health services are a typical medical service that's provided by the government to expand access for the entire human population. And a medical service is a treatment for a specific disease. So actually, modifying genes on mosquitoes doesn't count really as the public health services.
Sorry, but it is actually an indirect way for public health services, because vector-borne disease is actually affected so many people, and by editing a mosquito, it could not actually let the mosquito carry this disease, and it could it could decrease the people who are going to affect the malaria, and this is also considered as public health service too.
So
Sorry, it's my turn to answer your question. You have said that CRISPR is actually expensive, but if by using public health services, we can make every person receive this kind of treatment. But by not using genetic editing technologies as public health service, how are you going to let every person have the opportunity to have this kind of so advanced treatment?
So even if you incorporate gene editing technologies into public health services, you can't guarantee that every civilian will get the access to the technology due to the fact that there's striking difference in their the finance. So typical salary. So as I stated before, a typical annual salary for American civilian would be $56,000, and the research done and including the treatment for a specific disease.
Sorry, but I'm asking you, how can you provide us with a better method that people who are infected by these diseases that can only be cured by genetic editing technology with a better treatment?
So our side affirms that we can just keep the situation as it is, due to the fact that due to the market demand and the market, we can just let the market run itself. So even if you incorporate it into public health services, it won't help as much as just let it be what it is. Okay. So my question is regarding the ethical issues. We haven't really talked about the unethical nature of using gene editing technologies, because that's going to cause discrimination between the privileged humans and the unprivileged ones.
Exactly. By making genetic editing technology as public health service, we can make sure that every person can receive this treatment so that there will be no discrimination in society.
I need 30 seconds for my rebuttal speech. And my rebuttal speech starts now. Your first contention, you said about there are many diseases that are genetic, and the gene editing technology can cure these diseases. But I need to point out, it do have the potential to cure these diseases. However, it is not now mature enough to cure these diseases, as our sources already stated. It is not dangerous and can cause mutations. Even though it is killing many people now, it doesn't mean that we need to use another bad or even worse method to deal with this situation now, because this technology is not yet successful enough to expand to public health service. In the second contention, you talk about combating privatization, which means the government needs to take control of the gene editing technology for the reason that it is an advanced technology. I do agree with that. However, we need to, according to our sources, the government, each private gene editing technology sector has only 2 years of the patent. Therefore, after 2 years, the right of conducting an experiment will be returned to the government's hand. Therefore, the government has control over gene editing technology. So your second contention is not convincing. However, in our case, we said about its experimental nature, which was used by me to attack your first contention about it can cure diseases. Sure, it has the potential. However, it is not. It is at the experimental state, and it is not safe enough. It will cause mutations, and it will cause other worse situations. In the second contention, we talk about ethical issues, and we mainly listed 4 of them. It's about enhanced human, and therefore there will be discrimination. Because rich people will have more advantage, like they can enhance their strength and they can enhance their intelligence. And it is about, you didn't attack this our second contention about ethical issues. And I want to emphasize that it is human creating human if we use the gene editing technology. And we can, in a way, change the future generation even without their awareness. Thirdly, it's about there will no longer be humans, and it's not something that's scientific. It is they have lost their identity as human. Their identity as human is an important part of themselves. They need to realize who they really are and what they will really do. It is an important part in ethics. Our third contention is about social divide. And I need to say that even though the government can get money through tax and they can give funding to the gene editing technology, not everyone can afford it because it costs a lot. It has a fixed cost, and you can't just ignore that. Because it costs a lot of money. Even though the funding is given, the poorest people cannot afford it either. So that's all an overgeneralization saying that everyone can afford this thing. And also need to emphasize that poor people cannot afford it and rich people can afford it. So if you make the rich more privileged and make the poor poorer, and they will never have chance to be rich again because they couldn't have bought it in the first place, and it can pass through generations, and that's all.
My time starts now. The con sides provide the alternative of doing nothing. This means that they do not decrease the inequality in the society, they do not save the millions of lives that we save, and they don't allow the funding for more innovations. There are less risks as we extend access to gene editing technologies. According to the NCI's Laboratory of Cancer Biology and Genetics, the primary advantage of this new technology, CRISPR, is its ability to easily edit the genome in a precise fashion. And according to Lostat at the National Cancer Institute, unlike RNAi, CRISPR completely eliminates the expression of target gene, and the result of the data is cleaner and of higher quality. They also say that we can't solve diseases by saying, according to our sources. However, we don't see that these our sources are very credible. And moreover, they say that there's the risk of humans creating humans, and there's a risk of designer babies. And that's exactly what we're emphasizing on. There are risks in this world, and that's why we need the government to step in, intervene, and strictly regulate and control these designer babies or humans creating humans. And that is why we need the government to step in. Currently, private firms are insufficient in maintaining a strict structure which allows the genetic editing technology to be safe and secure or even be moral. They have people working to create designer babies and they don't know. The designer baby breakthrough is an example of imbeciles working under little restrictions that are found in the private firms who are trying to earn renown and fame through the breakthrough of gene editing technologies. These are the type of incidents that will occur under their hands, and the government is much more regulated, controlled, and we can see that the best choice is when we expand access to the gene editing technologies is the government. Moreover, According to the Huada biotech company, they stated that all researchers and projects have to go through layers of evaluation and consideration of the government. The opposition side is being extreme to say that germline editing is going to be implemented in the future. However, if you know that you're going to get hit by a car when crossing the road with a red light, you wouldn't cross it. The same with germline editing. If you know of the harms, the government would, of course, not expand access because it is not mature yet, and the government would provide sufficient funding for the research and development so that it can be mature, and so on. They also say that there are inequalities in society and social division. However, they do not provide an alternative which decreases the inequalities. However, we do, because of the rich can afford the private medical care to treat cancer and other diseases that are very expensive. However, the poor can't. The public health services allow access to all, including the minorities, the poor. It is the conside's burden to prove that the private sector can increase the equality. And cancer treatment is expensive, especially to those who have the monthly income of $500. However, the government would allow access to all. Thank you. Wasn't it 4 minutes?
Sorry.
Yeah, there was another minute.
So sorry.
Also,
Just go on. I give you 10 seconds to get your point. Okay?
My time starts now. Cancer treatment is expensive, especially to those who are very poor. And by allowing the government to control the range of the price in an affordable range, then all people can access it. The key patents have full ownership of this technology. According to the University of California, the patent is currently owned by the Broad Institute and Fengzhou at MIT Institute. And this means that they are the only ones who can access this technology. They are the only ones who can do research and development on these specific technologies, and that means that it will greatly restrict the innovation. Moreover, gene therapy, as they have pointed out, is very expensive, and it costs $500,000 to $1 million compared to the heart transplant, which only costs about $200,000, and that is why the government needs to step in, because it is exactly unaffordable by many of the people in the middle class and the lower class. And thank you.
Crossfire is 3 minutes. Just be clear.
You may ask the first question.
Yeah, I asked the first question is that, do you mean that we need to choose an alternative, even though the alternative is worse off than the original measurement to solve a disease?
I'm saying that it is your burden to prove that you have a better alternative that decreases the inequality. However, in our case, we already said that we increase the equality and allow access to all kinds of people, neglecting if they are poor or rich.
Or you are not giving evidence about why it's a good, better measurement to treat diseases?
I would like to repeat again that it increases equality, and moreover, we're saving millions of lives, and we allow for innovation in research and development of the gene editing technologies. However, you said in the crossfire that you provide the alternative of doing nothing, and I don't think that doing nothing can gain any benefits. My turn to ask a question.
Go ahead.
What other methods, other than CRISPR, can you suggest that can cure malaria, cancer, and leukemia, and sickle cell disease?
Well, that's our main confusion again. We are saying that you don't need to provide an alternative, as my partner has already stated, because there are ways to treat these diseases, maybe cancer like chemotherapy, and we don't need to gene editing because it has some side effects like, as we are already stating in our case first contention about it will cause mutation and it is not successful yet. And the question asked is present tense, should gene editing be expanded to public health service?
Yes, and that is because we have the emergency to provide this this access to gene editing technologies now. And moreover, as you have mentioned that there's risk, firstly, we have a more credible source that says that CRISPR does not have the risk. And secondly, even if there was the risk, then the people are like, they only have a few more days of life, and they want to have a life. That is the only chance and their only choice to make this decision. And we are giving those kinds of people the access to gene editing technologies, and we think that it is much more beneficial. And since you still don't...
Can I ask that question?
Oh,
now?
yes, you can.
Yeah. I'm going to ask a question by saying that they can get a chance to leave if they're desperate enough and it's their only choice. But why do you think the private sector can't provide this technology and only the government can provide it? If this technology exists, it doesn't mean that only government can do this. You are just putting the focus on the genetic extent of public health
Judge,
service.
the con side is now contradicting themselves by saying that.
Speaker one. So the speaker one summary starts now. So we don't deny that genetic engineering is generally of greater quality, but this only works and given the circumstances that the gene editing technology is proven successful, but it is not. So most sources from saying genetic engineering is safe are from 2016 or from 2017. However, we have sources of information from 2018 saying that there could be potential influence of using CRISPR could spread like an epidemic. So here's the sources. So on June the 11th, 2018, there was a report titled "A Serious New Hurdle for CRISPR-Edited Cells Might Cause Cancer." Two studies found. So basically, we are saying that using genetic engineering to stop to treat cancer is introducing a new problem while solving the existing one. So we can't prove is already successful. And on July the 16th, 2018, there was a news article revealing that in studies of mice and human cells, a research team has found that in around a fifth of cells, CRISPR causes deletions or rearrangements of more than 100 DNA letters long. These surprising changes are sometimes thousands of letters long, which can be catastrophic. So we're saying that this could lead to the elimination of the entire population due to the fact that this is germline editing. So it could be passed on to generations. And these sources are from New Scientist, which is a renowned scientific magazine. And regarding the latest issue, which is the Chinese genetic edited babies, on December the 1st, both CNBC and Washington Post has posted news articles saying that 122 Chinese scientists protested against using genetic engineering due to the chances of mutations can reach up to 60% by using such technologies. But we haven't really talked about, so sorry, we're running out of time. So yes.
Judge, my time starts now. Judge, there are three questions in this debate. Firstly, they have said that there is discrimination in the society if you use genetic editing technology. But however, discrimination has already existed in society. For example, killing of the black by police because of generalization and the judging of Algerians to be terrorists. Also, it is ridiculous to say that governments will make designer babies, but changing the human and making humans not human is not, and also making humans not human is will not happen if the government step in and provide more restrictions and laws. Also, they have said that there is only 2 years for patents, but that is not true because there can be patents that last for 20 years. This means that private companies, if private companies keep on holding these patents, then they'll hinder research because they lack the necessary capability. And they can control the price of treatment into unaffordable range. However, public health services will be a much better choice with more resources and regulations, and the price will be controlled to affordable range, and government subsidies will be provided. The second clash is the price.